welcome to Just Another Podcast. I'm your host, Justin. I'm joined by Will and Jay from the Bangor Comic and Toy Con. How's it going, dudes?
Very well.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
How you doing?
So, I'm doing wonderful. I mean, one of our employees, Callan's last day is Friday, so I started drinking at 2 because we set a little celebration at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Kept it low ABV so I could have a few beers and come home. And then I'm now drinking a little golden era. But yeah, it's been a good,
which I gotta
day.
try. I gotta get my hands on that. I saw when you guys posted that.
I got a couple more left. We can hook you up with.
Yeah, hook me up. But just one. I just need one so I can try it.
I mean, if you lived closer, I guess I could swing by the studio now. I mean, you're back to work, so.
This is true. I am back to work, big time.
I'm counting down like 35 days until my tattoo.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things where people are like, Dan, you're booking out far. I'm like, yeah, well, that date's still going to be here, so you might as well get on the books while you can, you know?
Well, didn't I mention to you, is like, I feel like I should just start booking 2 appointments at a time because it's like, I know I'm going to want one, 60 days, 90 days afterwards, but if I wait until the day I have my appointment, that appointment's not going to be there anymore.
Well, at this point, you're very correct because I'm booking almost 7 months out right now.
Wow.
So that's, yeah. I wasn't expecting that, but it's a real thing. I'm having to say to people like, hey, if you think you're going to get back in here in like a month, you're not correct.
And that's without another shutdown. I mean, not like, let's hope that nothing else happens, but like.
Yeah, I know, right? As long as I can keep working, I'm good. As long as I can keep working. I got my mask, all that. I just need to be not told I'm not allowed to work.
It's true.
But we could talk tattoos all day. Maybe we can get into that a little bit too. But we're really here to talk about the Bangor Comic and Toy Con that was supposed to happen in a couple of weekends.
Supposed to happen almost like a year ago.
Yeah, that's true. The big C got in the way, though. I like to call it the big C, and people sometimes get confused with what I mean by the big C. But yeah, so it was supposed to happen back in April at the Cross Insurance Center in Bangor, and then it got moved because of COVID to October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But then again, wasn't really ready. I was with you guys at OBC having some beers. We were discussing it, and it wasn't that long afterwards. I got a little message from Will being like, "Hey, this isn't public yet, but this is what's going to happen." And so, back of our minds, we thought it's likely going to be postponed, but I feel like none of you guys wanted to actually say it out loud. But now it's back to April. We're basically, you guys are just skipping a year in a sense now.
Pretty much.
Yeah. It's funny. We had this meeting, our last staff meeting last Wednesday, and we're like, it's crazy to sit here and think that basically BCTC took a year off between when me and Jay took it over from Chris. We had our first one. We feel it was successful. I mean, it was the second highest attendance for any of the BCTCs that's ever happened. Yeah. And all this going into this year, and easily like the biggest year I honestly think we would have ever had, biggest guest list. Just kind of know some of the ins and outs of things we were working on and things that were in place to be happening for this convention. So now it's like, it's going to be another year before we have our next convention.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is that it's not at least another year because, like, we thought it was going to be in October, so that was like 6 months, and now pushing it again, it's like, oh damn! I mean, it's only like 6 months away, if that. So.
I mean, but is it crazy? I mean, the fact that you guys obviously work day jobs too. This is your side business, but like. I remember working for a concert company in Massachusetts where a festival in the summertime was our end game once a year. And so we built up and built up and built up to that day. I feel like you guys have had to do that for April of 2020. And then it's like, okay, it didn't happen. You have a couple of weeks, you're probably like, okay, I can breathe a little bit. And then it's try to get the guests in line and back up to October. And then it doesn't happen. And now you have to wait 6 more months. So like you guys have all that build up for nothing. Twice already.
Yeah,
literally.
It was one of those where I don't even think we really breathed. It was like, okay, so we're moving it here. We were instantly like jumping on, making sure we got the guests lined up. I think we maybe took we did a few more of the Don't Cross the Stream webisodes. we had lined up, and then we're like, all right, like full on back into this in hopes that, you know, we were going to be able to make it happen. And the closer it got, obviously, it was clear it wasn't getting better.
And we kept saying to people, we were like, listen, we're going to do this event until we are told we cannot do this event. And we didn't necessarily get told we couldn't, but it was what, Will? It was like, mid-August, and we still didn't have a definitive, yes, you can have your full event. It was like, well, the state is still under a state of emergency, which says that you can only have 50 people. And we have over 100 vendors. So, I mean, we had to just be like, all right, well, this is obviously not going to happen. But part of it blows, but part of it is a huge relief, because anybody that does know what's going on in Maine, that Millinocket wedding, which I hate to keep bringing it up because I know those people that brought it up, I'm sure that they were so sick of thinking about it. And I feel bad for them that their wedding is related to this. But that could have been us. And I kept saying that to Will. I was like, all it takes is 2 or 3 people to end up being associated with our event. And then they're going to be like, now all you're going to hear is great. The Bangor Comic and Toy Con came and they brought us back our second wave.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's weird because it's like, it's this wedding you keep on hearing about, the wedding. They wouldn't go. They wouldn't
the red
go.
Wedding.
they wouldn't go the event. They'd say the Bangor Comic and Toy Con over and over and over again, which is a benefit that they get, is that it's not, they don't say the person's name. It's not, John Doe and Jane Doe. They're saying the Millinocket wedding at Big Moose Inn or whatever. The downside to what you guys would have to go through is it would say Bangor Toy and Comic Con or Comic and Toy Con, and it would have to be like, that would be decimating to you guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
100% would not help our image, that's for sure. Especially with like, what we're trying to already, put together for everybody, like a family-friendly event. Like, come hang out. We're being super chill about stuff. And they're like, oh, by the way, we're also the reason why the second wave happened in Maine.
We're gonna start writing a horror movie for it, right?
Yeah.
So with it being postponed, is it? I mean, have you guys are obviously working with people, but is it most of the same guests set lined up, or are you still working on that?
Will, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, so I think the plan is to have as many of the original guests still back, as long as they're able to be there. We've already got the Clerks trio locked in. Jason Font will not be there, but obviously we'll be talking about that later. We have added another Power Ranger to join Catherine Sutherland, which we haven't announced yet. So a few new faces, but we're trying to do everything in our power to get that same guest list back. Though I guess the one fun thing about this for us is obviously their conventions are, there's a few small things that are still happening this year. But where we were kind of, Maine being where it was, so few COVID cases, and us still holding on to hope, we've had a number of guests actually reach out to us and say, hey, like, is your convention still happening? I want to come to it. So it's given us some other opportunities to look at, if, the original lineup is not able to make it, or depending on, hey, do we say, let's add, we kept saying, like, this is our guest limit, we're not going over it, and then we always kept, somehow we'd add somebody else in or something else in, and we're like, all right, but that's it.
Well, we're pretty much at that right now. If you think about like who we originally were trying to make sure we still had, and because that we thought we were losing Jonathan Frakes and McFoley, and then Kevin Eastman, we ended up bringing in Ranky and Saf from the Tiger King. So, but if all those people can still come, we're gonna have extra people now.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I said, I mean, there's a few emails that we've gotten where me and Jay discussed things, and we'll see. Like I said, the goal at the end of the day is to have the same guest list that we had. And if we lose some of those, we have some cool options on the back burner. But I can say as of right now, the only guest that we know won't be back will be Jason Font, as we're doing something else with him now.
Was it just because he's booked somewhere else? Is that what it is, or is it just won't be able to make it up there? Is it? I mean,
no, that's because we're doing the.
Oh, because we're doing that one. Okay.
So we figure we're going to do that, and then
there's no reason to have him back. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, exactly. So we figure we jump in, and with Catherine and this other person, they're very close, and they work together all the time. So honestly, it may be kind of a blessing in disguise. Jason gets to come up and do this event with us, come promote his new action figure and everything, and then we get to have still Catherine and then the other guests that we haven't announced yet, and they are super tight. So they're going to be. I just think it's honestly going to work out for the better.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, we can jump into that too really quickly while we're on the subject. That Jason is coming up to Maine the same weekend. Do you want to jump in on that, Will or Jay? Either one.
Yeah, we'll go for it. I'll hold this up with the info, and you can talk about it.
Yeah. So basically, Jason Font had reached out a month before the convention and was like, "Hey, are you guys still happening?" With everything going on, I've been booking some comic book shop tours. And obviously I still want to do your event if I can, but if you guys aren't happening, I want to try to book something. We were very hopeful that the event was still going to happen. Obviously it's not. So Jay and I were like, well, what can we still do to still bring something here this year for people, but make sure it's still very safe and organized and but fun. So we reached out to Jason and we were like, hey, I'm sorry. We were very hopeful, but it's not going to happen. What are your thoughts on bringing your comic book shop tour here? I mean, we've already got your flights booked. The hotel, we can already grab that. And he was like, yeah, I mean, I'm up for whatever. He's like, I want to come to Maine. These have been going really well for me. So if you guys feel that it's good for you, then let's go for it. So now we've got like a 4-day jam-packed event with Jason. We're going to be, the plan is, originally it was going to fly in Wednesday, and we were going to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday events. His flight's now changed, and he'll be here on Wednesday. So we're adding a Portland stop Friday morning. So we'll go down to either going to try to do something with Bull Moose or one of the comic shops down in Portland. Come back Friday night for a VIP dinner that Jason wanted to set up at Seasons. So it's a different event, but it's one of those where you get to you pay, you get to hang out, have a meal, talk with him, get selfies. It's no autographs or anything that night, but just a cool experience, I guess, for people to have. And then Saturday morning, we're going down to 3D Games down in Farmington, and he'll be doing a signing down there with them at their shop. We'll be coming back that night and doing another event at Seasons, another signing event, photos, selfies, maybe a little panel or something. We'll figure it out. And then we're going to wrap up Sunday morning at Galactic Comics with Paul. And have another appearance there. And the cool thing with the 3D Games shop and Paul's shop is we worked with Bob Raymond, who does everything for us. All of our poster art, designed our Paul Bunyan logo. And he made 2 different prints. So there'll be an exclusive print for each of those 2 shops to hopefully entice people. Hey, yes, you could come to Seasons for the dinner. You could go to the bigger signing event at Seasons. But if you choose to go to this local comic shop, then here's an incentive for doing that opposed to these other events. And then the cool, the safety piece there, we're limiting it to however many, we're having, I think, 3 or 4 tickets per like half an hour block. Yep. So everything's going to be a phone call like, hey, you're reserved between 11 and 11:30. Sit out in the parking lot. We'll call you. You come in. You're the only person in there. So then that also allows them that one-on-one experience with Jason, but it keeps it, the social distancing piece in place. and helps keep everybody safe and whatnot.
Which is pretty cool because to Paul's where I buy my comic books now here at Galactic Comics in Bangor, and he's not open on Sundays usually, so it's right. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's closed
or
on Sunday.
Tuesdays.
He's closed.
and so he doing that 11 to 3 thing is pretty cool too for someone to see the shop who maybe have never been in there but want to meet Jason Font and get an autograph from a Power Ranger or anything like that. It's pretty cool too.
Well, and it's cool because he's got his new action figure coming out, and Jason's just a really good dude. And if you're gonna, if this is your first experience going out and meeting anybody like that, like he's a really good person to break into that with. Super down to earth, very appreciative and everything. And we're at the core, we're just trying to give another experience for people to get a little bit of normalcy. Like we wanted our event to happen so badly, and it's just not going to happen right now. But if we can at least do this, give people something to come out, meet somebody that they like, ask a couple questions, get some stuff signed, get his action figure and all that. Like, mental health alone right now is plummeting with a lot of people. And I appreciate that Will jumped on this, and we were both on board that we were going to postpone the comic convention and everything. But Will was like, hey, we already got this taken care of with Jason. Jason's doing this tour to promote the new movie coming out and all that they're working out, all the Power Ranger guys, all the old school guys. So yeah, I'm very excited that we at least have something to give us a little bit of that feeling.
Which is pretty cool because it's also like, I don't know, it's not like crowds of people. I mean, when you go to Comic Cons and you have the main person there, you wait in lines and you have this like big people around there, people getting rushed by. If you had that half an hour slot with only a few people in there, it's like, that's pretty cool. And this is experience. I'm guessing Jason wasn't going to do a VIP dinner normally. Would that have happened if Comic-Con was going on?
No,
I don't think so. I think it was one of those where Jason wanted if COVID hadn't been happening, Jason still was going to come up a day early, and he likes to go to the children's camp, like children's hospital or cancer centers. So he was really hoping to do that. Obviously, with COVID, that's not going to happen. But yeah, there was like no dinner prior plan, and he was like, "Hey, I'm here. Like, let's make the most of it." His flight got messed up, and they basically tried to put him on like a red eye with 5 stops, opposed to like a normal 8-hour flight here. So like he was cool, and we moved it to Wednesday, and he's like, "Hey, I'm already there, so let's make the most of it. Let's add in some more stops if we can figure it out. Like, I'm not going to ask for more money. Like, let's just try to make the most of it while I'm there." And so, which was a nice to not have to have that concern of, you usually be like, "Oh, well, I'll do this," or "Yeah, I'll add this event on with you guys, but I need something on the back end for myself."
Right.
And so for him to just be like, "No, let's throw it in there. Tell me where we're going, and I'll make it happen."
You bring him to a Sea Dogs game. Oh wait, that's not happening. Oh, a hockey game. Oh wait, that's not happening.
We'll bring him to a waterfront concert.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh wait.
That's pretty cool though. I guess it shows like it's also the experience that we talked about when I was on your Don't Cross the Stream, and I've talked with other people about. And actually, I think I probably talked a little bit with Jay when he was on the podcast a little while back. But is that the experience of like an organic, homegrown, like Comic-Con event convention like you guys have, is that you get to meet these people that maybe you never would have gotten a chance to meet. And this is even more homegrown with a comic book shop or like at Seasons. It's like, it's even more down to earth in the aspect of maybe there's people out there that might want to go to this, Jason Font thing that maybe never would have gone to Comic-Con, but doing this might propel them into actually going and seeing the bigger event later on, which is really cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because if you think about coming to an event like this, to us, this is such a low scale thing compared to like these bigger events that like, I hope that that's something that people jump onto and they're like, man, I've always wanted to do an event like this or go to one. And I wasn't really sure if it was going to be for me, if it was going to be too overwhelming and everything, because, not that it's the same scale, but I'll tell you, the first convention I went to, I wanted to dress up and my anxiety was through the roof because other people going to conventions, they laugh at me even saying this, but I was like, is anybody else going to be dressed up? Like, am I going to be the only person that's dressed up? And in like 2 seconds of being there, I got people like wanting to take my picture and be like, "Man, what an awesome outfit!" I'm just like, "Oh my god, my people." My people.
Well, and it's a great story because I love telling like these like there should be like a whole set. You guys should do a Don't Cross the Streams on like your first con experience. It doesn't have to be Bangor Comic Con, but just those kind of stories. Because I mean, mine's kind of similar. I went to a small Comic Con in Massachusetts, not Boston, but like somewhere northern Massachusetts, and it was like December-ish was the con or like November-ish. I had just dressed up like Logan. Not Wolverine, but I had like the Wolverine claws. I had a leather jacket. I have these dog tags that are Wolverine dog tags. And all
Nice.
I just done it, and then I wore the outfit minus the jacket and the claws, and I didn't do my hair up because I'm like, I don't want to dress up. This is gonna be weird. And I went inside again. Everybody was dressed up. The same thing happened as I actually had like purchased a couple of comic books that Jim Steranko had done the art for, and I was like, oh, I'll go up to his place and get him signed. And like, he's not gonna let me sign him. He's gonna make me do it. And I walked up there. He's like, hey, Eddie, got anything else you want me to sign? And I'm like, God damn it, they're in the car. And it would like this whole like mentality of like I thought I was gonna be overwhelmed by meeting these people and doing these things. And when I met George Perez, he literally was like, oh yeah, it's $40 for a picture, and I'll sign anything you have. And there was people bringing like stacks of things up there, and I brought my like 3 comic books. I'm like, God dang it, I could have George Perez, like seriously, out of all the people. And so like, yeah, that'd be actually kind of fun experience, like anybody's big Comic Con experiences versus their small Comic Con experiences, and just know that.
I mean, I'm down to do anything like that. I'll tell you right now, man, I miss like just right now sitting in front of my iPad and seeing Will in front of his pop characters and everything. Like, I miss it, man. We were doing we did maybe like 16 episodes, 17 episodes or something like that.
I want to say at least 16 or 17. It's funny, like, we kind of talk about it on the web show, but it's one of those things where we had no idea. Like, I was over at Chelsea's house, and I was like, hey, Jake, call me. It was like 11:30 at night. I was like, just call me. I got to run something by you. And he's like, all right, give me a few minutes. I was like, look, I've got this like list made out. Like, this is what I'm thinking of doing. Like, all these other, like a few of these other conventions are doing it. They seem to be going well. And he's like, well, I mean, I guess if we can put some content together. I'm like, listen, I've got like 8 episodes. Like, I've already got planned out. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I guess we can give it a shot. And I'll be honest, it was one of those where I've had no experience with OBS. I didn't know what I was doing. And thank God for Dave and Kelly, from Winter House for being there and helping me get everything set up and and make backdrops and this and that and walk us through, and our team. And I think Justin, even you said it on one prior to us even doing it, just like these test runs to, all right, how does this work? Is this going to work? Like, how do I do this? How do I do that? And then
it's funny how you say 8 episodes. I think it took you 8 episodes to be on time and actually get things going correctly.
I don't think we ever were on time. I don't think we were on time once, dude.
Well, then it's like we had like the episode with like Lou, where like we were good to go, and Jay's like, "All right, Lou, so we'll save this, for when we get on air." And Lou just goes on, and we're like 15 minutes later, and we're like, all right, Lou, we gotta get rolling. No, hold on a minute. Let me tell you this story. I'm like, Lou, okay.
Save it for the episode.
Yeah, that's the whole point of a podcast or a live stream like that. It's just shoot the shit on the air. Like, it's.
I think that was the worst part about it for us, is that we'd get together. Like, I'd jump on, or like Will would be on, I'd jump on, and then we'd kind of shoot the shit. And then somebody would jump on. We'd be waiting for the other one to be shooting the shit. Then the other one would jump on. And next thing you know, it's like 8:30, and it's like, hey, we need to start this. Stop talking about stuff. Save it for the episode.
Well, now I understand, like the Nerdist podcast, what's the space? I think when you sit in the room, he presses record. And when you have an sound engineer who's editing all this and they get paid for that, I understand that. But, Will knows, and Jay, that like when the whole thing we talk about at the very beginning, before anyone starts an episode on my podcast and on your stream, is shut up for 30 seconds because we have to do the intro and the intro music and all that, especially on a live broadcast. For me, it's like 5 seconds so I know where to cue my edits. I can add the audio on before the intro music and all that stuff. But it's like when you have someone's job is to sound engineer and do all that crap for you, just press record when someone sits down and shoot the shit, and maybe that makes the episode, maybe it doesn't, but at least you have, you know, something. And it's just kind of funny. It's funny how you mentioned Lou Temple. I'm rewatching the Walking Dead TV show on my days off, and he just got shot in the episode when they're at the prison. But I forgot.
Spoiler.
I think it's long enough. Okay, we're about to go into the 11th season here. I think season 2 is a little open for grabs. But I forgot the episodes previous to that, which is kind of funny, that he was actually kind of a creep. Like he was hitting on the 17-year-old girl, and then was hitting on.
In the episode he was with us, he actually thought his character was a little bit of like a different kind of character. So he was acting a certain way, and then he told us that that's not really how the director wanted it. So that's why there's actually kind of a little bit of a miscommunication on who he is as a character.
But and then it becomes really sad because he originally was tells Carol, she's like, and you're a lesbian, so I don't really know. I'm going and she goes, I'm not a lesbian. She starts laughing and whatever. She walks away. But the episode before, earlier in the episode where he gets shot, is he's really nice to Carol, and he explains the whole story of him and how he went to do armed robbery, but he had a water pistol, and then went back to his house, and his brother had a gun. And when the police came to find him, they searched the house and found his brother's gun and felt that it matched the description. And she was all all sweet, and then he said something to her was really sweet, and she smiles and walked away. And then later in that episode, she gets shot. I'm like, God damn it, Robert Kirkman! This hell.
They definitely
I went from hating this dude from hitting on a 17-year-old girl to loving this dude because he was super nice, and then he kill him.
Yeah, that's and that's Walking Dead for you though.
Yeah.
The second that you connect with a character that's not a main character, dead.
Well, I think it's one of the things that made it so successful as a TV show was that Robert Kirkman and Gimple, all the guys that ran the show are just this is how we're going to run the show because we don't care at this point. Let's kill off someone if they want to kill off someone because it's a worthwhile TV show. And it's true because, let's be honest, in a show like that in The Walking Dead, when are the real stars in the last 11 years in this world? Just so happens that Rick doesn't die the entire, that kind of thing. It's something would happen. You'd get bit on the leg by something at some random time. And he does that. He ends up making it so that people were surprisingly killed. But the whole back and forth thing where he made me hate the character, then love the character, then that was toying with my heart. That was not nice of you.
The biggest thing I could do without The Walking Dead was Rick's realizations. It was always the end of a season where he'd give a speech on what he realizes was good and what was bad about what just happened. And you're just every time.
Which is funny how we're talking about The Walking Dead here for a second, because when I picked up so the best thing about Paul Eaton's comic book shop, Galactic Comics and Collectibles, is that he's open 5 to 9. And so for me, I work on Wednesdays 10 to 9, or most of the time. So the schedule's changing now. I get out at 6 now, which is really nice. But is that I get out at 8:30 and I text Paul and I'm like, Paul, I'm on my way. Don't close the shop. I'll be right there. And this past week I got there at 8:30 or whatever, and for 10 minutes we just chatted The Walking Dead. There was a customer in the store. They're standing over there with their mask. I'm over here. Paul's over here. And we're picking up my comic books. He's ringing them up, and we go on and on and on. And finally, I was just okay, guys, I gotta go. I can talk about The Walking Dead for the rest of the night. I gotta go. And I just walked. See you next week, Paul. And I just walked out the door and left.
Yeah.
Because starting October 7th, I think it's a Wednesday, The Walking Dead Deluxe comes out, which is basically they're redoing the comic book with color pages instead of black and white. And they're adding a few cool things at the end of it, and so it's just another way for Image and Robert Kirkman and Skybound to make a bunch of money off.
Make money, yeah. I think I stopped at volume 24. I need to pick back up.
I'll be able to tell you what it was. I used to have them. I sold them all when I wanted some room for some other stuff. But yeah,
once I found out there was an end, I was all right, I'll pick it back up.
I read it all again during the shutdown, March 15th-ish, maybe the March 20th, March 22nd. I started reading it again because right around then, beginning of April, is when they stopped coming out with new Marvel comic books because of the whole Diamond fiasco.
Right. Yeah.
And so I want to read these comics that I had in my hand. Okay, there's Ghost Spider or whatever, Spider-Man number 5, but I know number 6 is not going to go for months. So I was like,
Right.
I'll just wait to read that. And I was like, let's read something that I know I can continue to read. And I reread number 1 through 193 on my iPad, and it was well worth it. And then I'm like, oh, now I'll watch the TV show to like piggyback on it. And part of me is now going to do it because I kind of fell off the last season of the Walking Dead TV show. And now that I know it's ending next season, season 11, I was like, oh, okay, let's get back on it and like watch the whole thing over again. And
Yeah, I need to jump back into it for sure. So Moses, actually, he posted a picture of him and Theshay with, I can't remember her real name, but who plays Michonne.
Denai Guerrero, Denai or something like that. Something
Sure.
along those lines.
I'm not going to try to pronounce that, but
I
he
know,
posted that photo about them
Michonne,
being
like,
done.
More credit to Justin for.
Huh?
I said,
Yes.
I would have just given Michonne some more credit to Justin for sticking
Yeah,
with
right.
it.
Denai, I think.
Well, I
it's
messaged Moses after, and I
Denai.
just was like, I had no idea the show was actually ending. Is it like over now? And he's like, they're going to do one more season, and they're calling it after that. But they've got like spin-offs, and they got a couple movies.
Yeah, they've got
Which I can understand because, like, me and the biggest thing, like, what's the best thing that Star Wars has come out with in the past couple of years, right? Mandalorian, right?
Mandalorian.
Yeah.
It's a spin-off in a sense, so it's like I can understand when you get to a certain point with a certain, series or universe, as an example. Like, do some spin-offs, find out what other groups of people have been able to do, and do some cool things. Because, I mean, I don't mind the idea of like, there's a book that came out recently called The Alien, which is the Walking Dead spin-off book.
Yeah,
I
saw that.
I made him order it for me. I was so kind of disappointed because it's like it looks as thick as a graphic novel, so you'd think maybe 3 or 4 issues worth of comic books in one. It's one issue. It's one small issue. It doesn't. The hardcover makes it look way bigger than it actually is, and sealed. The whole thing is sealed and shrink. It's a one-off. It's basically the idea is it's based in Barcelona. And so it's kind of cool that it's like a variation. And it does, I'm not going to spoil it, but it does connect to the actual Walking Dead universe from the United States. And so in that sense, it's really cool how it does that. But that also tells me that you could do that. Figure out someone's, some sort of way to connect it. And you could even do like what they did with Fear the Walking Dead, which someone goes over to that show, even for a couple episodes, just to bring people over to watch it and go, oh, that's a pretty cool show. Or a movie or whatever. I mean, X-Files did it well with their movies.
Yeah.
I mean, they were able to do some feature films that were in the theaters. Speaking of that, Taylor and I are rewatching the X-Files now, which I'm rewatching it. She's watching it for the first time, and I love that shit. So, but yeah,
I never got into X-Files.
It's funny. I don't want to move my camera because it's set up in a certain way, but on the back of my door, I have the "I Want to Believe" poster from Fox Mulder's office.
Nice.
But so you guys had 2 characters from the Walking, 4 characters from the Walking Dead.
We've got a number, yeah.
Yeah, we got a number now because even Denise Crosby, she was in The Walking Dead.
Denise Crosby, Moses, Theshay, Cooper, Lou.
Is that everybody?
I think that might be it.
That's it. I mean, come on. Let's be honest. That's a pretty good lineup for people.
Yeah.
I mean, Cooper. I mean, you guys know my feelings about Cooper Andrews. One of the best people you've ever gotten to come to Bangor Comic Con, and was a fill-in for someone else who was from The Walking Dead that wasn't able to make it.
And I wonder about things like that though too, where it's like, not to say anything about Ryan. I would have loved to have Ryan. I still would love to have Ryan at our event, but I feel like our experience with Cooper overall, long term, is probably better than what we would have had with Ryan. I doubt that I'd be late night video chatting with Ryan as opposed to Cooper, or having Cooper jump on our web show and putting together a care package to send to Ryan as opposed to Cooper. So it was a really good trade, or doing the movie preview or the premiere with Shazam everything,
That's an unbelievable story. I tell that story to a lot of people about Cooper Andrews doing that, not just because I like him as a person and I met him and stuff like that, but the idea that the cool thing about the Bangor Comic Con, you'd never get that from the Boston Comic Con or New York Comic Con or any of those places. There's no way that someone would be like, oh, my movie's premiering tonight. Let's go watch it for free. Or not for free, but you know what I mean? Like,
throw in the Walking Dead, like the Walking Dead game, and it was just supposed to be like, the theater was like, hey, if we give you guys like $10-20 to put in the machine, like, can we get Cooper playing it for promo video? And we're like, sure. So I think like Jay started out, and then I jumped in, and then like it just like kept like, people were just piling around and like taking photos and video of Cooper playing, and we're like grabbing some of our staff. He's like, yeah, somebody else get in here. Who's next? And it ended up just like being random people who were there to watch the movie. Also, then got to sit and play the Walking Dead game with Cooper while like he's in like full Jerry mode, like quoting like it was and then like going in, and he wasn't even, the plan wasn't for him to even watch the movie. I think the plan was because he had to fly into Portland, and Jay went down and picked him up that morning, and it was just gonna be one of those where people go in and watch the movie, and then come out and surprise, we're hanging out, like we're there to promote the convention, and oh look, Cooper's there, you can meet him, and then randomly, I think on the ride up with Jay, or like a few days prior, Juliet, his agent, messaged Jay and was like, hey, so this is originally what Cooper was going to do, but he wants to know if he can just hang out and watch the movie with everybody.
Yeah, he was like, his wife hasn't seen it yet, Aubin. She'd like to see it. So,
and the Bangor cinemas go, yeah, for $20. You can.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Well, now they would. Back then it was okay. Now they're like, no, we need the money.
Yeah, no, for real. You're not coming in. I don't care if you're in the movie. It's
You're
$20.
in the movie, yeah, sure you are. They all say that.
To kind of add on to what Jay's saying though, like with the Cooper thing, like that kind of almost like blessing in disguise. Yeah, like from everything we've heard, Ryan would have been fantastic, and we know there were a ton of people who were only coming to the convention for Ryan. But it's almost like that snowball effect. Okay, well, we got Cooper. We got an amazing experience. All of us have, great stories to share. But then, like, fast forward to now, and not only losing Ryan and getting Cooper, that's now opened the door because of having Cooper and the agent who he has. It's now got us the Clerks trio. And, like, to sit here and think, like, oh, yeah, at one point in time, like, we never would have thought we would have had Brian and Jay alone, than the fact that Jeff finally decides that he's going to start doing events and be able to get Jeff added in there. And then even at one point, like it's not going to happen, but I mean, we've heard it over and over again. Kevin Smith, to the point where Jay finally just like reached out to Juliet and was like, "Hey, do you know who like would rep him?" And like, or what we would go, like, we're not saying we want to do it. And then she's like, yeah, I can make it happen. This is what you guys are going to be looking at. If you want to do it. And we're like, okay,
Pass.
good to know.
Well, what I would say, and this is just me spitballing, is I would say I'd partner with Waterfront Concerts on this and have them come do a stand-up show.
Yeah, right.
And in connection, so that there's a cross-marketing, fees that are shared and all that.
Well, and you're not wrong there. I mean, that's really the way to do it with Kevin Smith. That's the way to do it. For if anybody that knows that side of it, how he works, what he expects, like you pretty much do need to book like a third-party event if you're going to.
And it could be in Cross Insurance Arena in Portland, so it's like a split thing in Maine. That it's like people in Portland get an experience that's a stand-up thing, and then they come to the Comic-Con in Bangor. That's how I would do it. And I obviously don't know. I do know the backings. We talked about at the beginning of the episode about my working for a concert company. I know that it's not like, oh, just get this person to come to your Comic-Con. There's guarantees in there, and there's ticket sales. There's a bunch of other things that go into it, and so it's not as easy for when people are always like, you should get this person. And it's like, well, yeah, no shit, we should get that person.
Yeah, I'd love
that
to.
person.
Yeah.
You got.
Like, we hear.
I should get Robert Downey Jr. That would be amazing.
Sure.
And we love hearing like people's thoughts on who we should get. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, it's a lot of the people don't like you just said, Justin. You get it, but a lot of people don't understand. Like, okay, it's not just as simple as bringing this person. You're looking at a guarantee. You're looking at per diem. You're looking at flight. Where are they flying out of? What type of flight do they want? Is it just economy? Do they want business, first class? Like hotel. There's all of these backing things that go into
travel.
It. Yep. Like travel from home to airport, from airport to here.
And sometimes it's hard to not be a dink when, somebody says, hey, you should get this person. And then you go, okay, well, what's their per diem? They're like, what? you're like, all right, next. You know, like, you don't mean to be a jerk, but if you don't even know what is one small part of the deal, then like, I'm sorry, like, you know, it's a lot of work involved, and that's a lot on our end. You gotta accept responsibility for it.
And
So
it's
it's
different.
like, and the biggest thing, the biggest thing is also demographic, you know, and the nice thing is when there's certain agents that understand that, like, you know, Joanna is somebody that we work with, and she's great at understanding that in this area, this person is not going to bring in this many people. Yes, they are popular, but there's not that enough population. So they're going to drop down their numbers, you know, because they know, hey, this is more realistic. And it's nice when you can get people like that. But also, again, there's some people that you reach out to and they don't care. They're like, you know, this is what this person gets. This is what they expect. Either do it or don't, you know, and you try to be
if
like,
you don't
well,
do
listen.
it, they're going to get it somewhere else. So
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
and that's what, and we talked about this. I mean, this is some of the things that we talked about off air when you guys met with me at Orno Brewing Company was, you know, not going into specifics, but the idea that can you reach out to this agent and be like, hey, we're dealing with COVID-19 pandemic right now. We want to still do this. Is there a way that their guarantee can be lowered or so on and so forth? And that's one thing that you guys dealt with. I will say San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, Boston Comic-Con have these huge, I say corporation, but huge businesses that are backing these things as national sponsors. And, you know, at the Comic-Cons and conventions that happen all over the country are like, hey, Budweiser sponsoring this festival. It's like, yeah, well, there's a big money draw there because Budweiser's giving them thousands of dollars so that if they don't make their guarantee, you can pull into that sponsorship money that you guys aren't getting because you're a homegrown, you know, local Comic-Con. And so one of those things that you guys dealt with, you know, COVID and trying to run something on COVID, which was, how do we pay these people if no one comes? Or how do we pay these people if you can only have 50 people in a building at a time? Or because, I mean, technically, you probably could have gone around the vendors being employees. I mean, they could have probably done something, but then you guys would have had to answer all those questions and all that stuff too. It's like, I mean, for us, like we have a capacity of 50 people at Orno Brewing Company, but that doesn't include my kitchen staff or my bartenders or a host or myself or anybody that's paid to be there. That's technically workers. So in a sense, you might have been able to push it saying vendors are there, but then you have to deal with, can we pay with 50 people being in the building at once? And so you guys dealt with all that crap.
Flow of traffic is another one for sure for us. Like, can we regulate things and make it so that this is like, I don't know how to say it, like only this amount of people are in at a certain amount of time kind of thing, and still get the amount of numbers that you would normally get. And yeah, you're totally right about sponsors and stuff like that. I mean, that's the biggest thing with a lot of things. Like if the guarantee was an issue, that would never, I'd be like, yeah, we'll book anybody that you want. If I don't have to worry about the money, you know, if we don't have to worry about these people getting the guarantee and what they're supposed to get, then absolutely, I'll book Chris Hemsworth. Sure, let's do it.
We'll book the whole Avengers staff. We'll do it. You know, you're doing a Clerks thing. We'll do an Avengers thing.
But we have his agent contact. We can get a hold of these people. It's just, it's what comes down to is realistic, being like, all right, cool. Like, yeah, you got to meet this person, but the show isn't going to happen anymore because we went bankrupt. Mm-hmm. You know,
which is good for people to know that it's you two. It's like, it's you and your family. It's like, it's not, there's no one like buck stops at Jay and Will. Like that's the Comic-Con. I mean, yes, you guys have a lot of people that help you put the Comic-Con on. Let's not discount that at all. There's volunteers are a huge part of that. But if tomorrow you were to put the Comic-Con on, say on October 2nd, and 15% of the people that were supposed to come came, and you made no money basically, and you just barely afforded to pay your costs of actually putting the Comic-Con on, but not the guarantees to all the people, you would have to worry about paying that all yourself. And all of those volunteers that helped you and all the people that did all the nice things for you, all their work goes for naught because now you can't put a festival or I keep on saying festival, but Comic-Con on anymore because you guys don't have any money to pay your own bills. You know, it's like, it's just, there is this backing of it. So making a smart decision to not do it in October when you know, it almost is good that you were forced not to do it in a sense. Because now you guys don't have to do as much risk on the act of putting it on because, you know.
And that was the big thing we were talking about too, is like, okay, so now that we're pushing this, you know, originally when we were pushing it to October, you know, and we're like, well, some of these guests, like, there were guests we didn't announce, we had never heard back from, but we're like, okay, well, do we try to get somebody else? And we're like, no, like the answer everybody wants is yes, you're going to find a replacement. But like you just said, we've never done an event this big in October. We've done the smaller convention. We've done like the halfway things. But we've never done something this large at this scale with this much money on the line in the fall. And we're like, well, we don't know what we're going to get attendance wise. Like, how many people are going to be scared away because of this? So it's better to say, hey, yeah, this is what our plan was, but A, B, C, and D can't make it now. But let's say that's $40,000 in guarantees that we don't have to pay, like have to have hanging over our head.
Yeah.
So that means we can still do this next year.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe a watered down version, and we'll get you the best that we can. And I feel like the lineup we still would have had was going to be great. Like, yes, there were, a couple bigger names that were missing from that. But again, to know, hey, this means, we can still do this next year. I'm a little bit more, I guess, fortunate than Jay is, because, like, if this weren't to work out, I just have myself that I have to, like, okay, I've got to figure out my bills. I've got to figure out how I'm going to take care of myself. But Jay's got a fiance. He's got a son. And how does, like, he turn around to them and say, hey, guys, sorry, like, can't take care of this because I just lost 20 grand trying to do this convention. So
try explaining that to someone too. I just lost a bunch of money on a Comic-Con, and see what their face looks like, and they're like, what, you did what?
But somebody's over here with their autograph, they're like slinking into their shirt. They're like, well, at least I got to meet so and so.
What, you mean the $40 I spent on this autograph is not going to pay for their guarantee?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
they're going to see me on the side of the road and be like, but that was a good Comic-Con, though.
Yeah, but that was so much fun. Like, yeah.
Well, are you Jay from the Comic-Con? Like, oh, yeah, that's pretty – you had a hell of a Comic-Con, man. It was a hell of a Comic-Con. Did you spare some change?
Yeah.
But you guys are obviously sad that you're not having it in October, but we're excited that you guys can, like, promote it for April, which is the time for the Bangor Comic-Con. Let's be honest. October would have been badass, like you said, but really Bangor Comic-Con happens in end of April. Like, that's when it happens now. Like, that's, you gear up for it.
I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I need to take this opportunity for anybody that is listening and seeing this to say that there is still the possibility that the world will not be back together by April. We have rescheduled for April, and we are again going to push and push and push to have it for April until we are told that we cannot. But we have to remember that April is only like 7 months away, and the world is still a shit show.
You're right. And I'm glad you said that, but in the same sense, you as an organization can't just be like, it's postponed indefinitely. You have to put some concrete dates in it, because it's not just an event you guys are putting on for yourselves. It's not like Jay and Will are the feature artists of this event. There's a bunch of people you have to put in place. You have to start scheduling ahead of time. So you have to start putting this in place for April to say this is what's going to happen. Yeah, because if you didn't do that, then you would lose guests, you would lose things, and so on and so forth. So yes.
If it wasn't for the fact that we have to book these celebrity guests and stuff so far in advance, I feel like we would just straight up put the BCTC in limbo and say, listen, as soon as this is all copacetic, we will schedule it. But because you have to be like, these people are going to be booked up, we have to get them now, we have to book in a date. That's why we had to schedule when we did. But we're going to announce that as well. We're going to put up things, stuff like that. But the Cross asked us to say, just keep people in the loop that there is still the chance. This is not a guarantee that this is happening.
The guarantee is that as long as this does go away some point, that you guys are going to do your best to put on a Bangor Comic and Toy Con in Bangor for someone at some 100%. Point. April is the tentative date, but yes, your plan is to put it on.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the other good thing to add into that too is, I mean, we've got it plastered on Facebook, on the website, but you know, people still, no matter what, this would have been year 5, will be year 5.
Yeah.
And people still don't understand that just because we have a guest doesn't mean that when that date rolls around that guest will still be there. You know, a lot of these guys, like, you know, it says guest subject to change. And I think this would have been the first year that we would have had the convention where the lineup we had in place was still the lineup we would have actually had at the convention.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, it's these guys, movies, things come up, like, you know, and at the end of the day, am I going to make more going to film this movie or do a couple conventions? Like,
Truth. I mean,
or not even make the money, but like, is this going to be my next iconic role that now I get to go to conventions forever because I was that guy in the movie?
Like, could this be that film that, like, or show that, you know, puts me in that place where
other
I, like,
shows, or
what's going to come from this opportunity? Like,
right.
Isn't that the most 2020 thing ever, though, for you guys? The fact that you probably would have had the same convention with the same guest you announced, and it didn't happen. Like, isn't that just how this year has gone for most people?
It's been a wash, dude. It's been a friggin' wash this whole year, dude.
So I'm guessing if you guys, so let's we'll play on the side of caution, obviously, with a little asterisk saying subject to change because of COVID. But you're planning to have the Clerks guys there, the trio from the Clerks. Jason Mewes, Brian O'Halloran, and I just had his face in front of me. What's his name?
Jeff Anderson.
And you guys will do, like, there's going to be things with them together and separately. Is that the plan?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, go ahead. Sorry.
You know, I was just say, like, so most of the stuff's going to happen. Is Kevin Eastman now back on for April tentatively? And again, depending on COVID situation, cool.
Yeah, I think depending on COVID, they're basically like, so Kevin's plan was, we had to book Kevin a year in advance. Like, we were like, when we reached out and for the last one, we were like, oh, he's booked. You'll be on the waiting list for 2020.
Yep.
And then, so basically everyone that was supposed to be 2021 is now being pushed back to 2022. The 2022 waiting list becomes the 2023 waiting list. And then everyone for 2020, ideally, is supposed to be 2021, as long as the dates work out. So we've sent Courtney, his wife, the dates, and it's just a matter of making sure they're free. So the plan is to have Kevin there. We got the Clerks trio. Gonna hope for Foley and Jonathan Frakes to come back. We've reached out to Dana's agent and the Tiger King agent as well to find out about those guys. So
that's awesome, because I mean, you always don't want to have to postpone it and then think of all this shit hitting the fan, and then none of your guests are good that weekend, and you have to restart from scratch again. But I mean,
that's the nice thing is that we definitely have the people we can get a hold of. But Kevin and Courtney have been really awesome this whole time. Even them doing the web series with us, and when Kevin had officially said that he couldn't do our event, they did even offer to do a live panel for our event. So I'm very confident that they're going to try to do whatever they can to make sure that they're still involved, because like Will said, we've been on the hook for a while. We went down last year and met them down in New Hampshire when they were at GraniteCon. Then we did the web show. We've been talking to them this whole time. So I really feel like we're in the queue, big time.
So that's awesome. I mean, like I said, there's people I'm always looking for. I mean, I'm always looking forward to seeing Ben Bishop and those guys, your local guys that are going to come anyway. It's going to be, if you have an event and it's going to be in Maine, someone from Maine, like Ben, is going to be there. I mean, let's be honest. He can't be like, well, my travel schedule is kind of hectic right now. I mean, obviously, shit could happen. I mean, he is on the last Ronin now. He's definitely progressing in his career and so on. So we're going to have Ben on again the Wednesday that the last Ronin #1 comes out at the end of October, which is pretty cool. Talk about the last Ronin. But so you have Comic-Con April 21st. Am I right on that?
23rd.
23rd
through the 25th.
In 2021. That's what
2021.
And then you have this Jason Font weekend, I would say, a couple days coming up at the beginning of October. So now when's the Portland date going to be? Do you know it's the 1st or the 2nd or?
So it should, if everything works out, that should be on October 2nd. Basically, we're waiting to hear back. We've reached out to Bull Moose, who said they were definitely interested. Obviously, it comes down to the whole COVID piece.
Mm-hmm.
So we're waiting to hear back from them. If that falls through, there's a couple awesome comic book shops down there that we'll try to reach out to. But ideally, it would be October 2nd in Portland. Then a very long day, a long weekend for Jason. Travel back up here, rest for a little bit, do his VIP dinner. Basically get up early again the next morning, road trip, let's say hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, down to Farmington.
When you're in Farmington, though, go to Kingfield. Get him a rolling fatty burrito. That would make him happy, right? Those things are so good. We were just there like a couple weekends ago.
Burrito, got it.
Yeah, got it. It's Kingfield. And then you got, so that's the whole weekend there. And are you guys planning, like, Will and I talked a little bit pre-recording of this, but are you guys going to try to do some Don't Cross the Streams again now that you don't have a convention coming up, to try to fill some space between now and our, dark winter depression?
I miss it. I enjoy doing it. Even if we do it once in a while, we find somebody else. I think that we've had enough people on the show that we could have some people come back on. I'd love to have Sean and Tomo. We talked to Mike Kingston because the Headlocked Kickstarter project is almost finished. So we talked about having him back on to promote that. We've talked to the Clerks people. They're totally on board, but their biggest thing is they want to do it closer to the actual convention dates to actually promote that. I think having a couple of local people, James Graham back on, like you, Josh, like we have plenty of options to have people back on. I would like to do it every now and then. I miss it. This has been fun.
I definitely will say that I do hold the record of the number of times I've been on the podcast, or the episodes. I think I'm at 2 or 3, and I think I'm at the record, so I'm okay with that.
You and Al are pretty close. I gotta say.
Yeah. We're up there, but you know what? I'll even come on. I told Will, I was like, I'll come on every once in a while if you guys want someone to moderate comments or do whatever. I'll just sit you can put me at the little box in the corner. I listen to some podcasts. It's the sound guy that just every once in a while gets to say something.
You are that guy. You already know you are that guy. Like we've done that before. We've been like, let's just throw Justin on because he can.
I can fill some comments in when someone has to. I can feel a comment in when someone needs to go take a leak.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Jay. He's going to the bathroom. Okay, Justin, your turn. Hey, so how's it going, guys?
Every time I'm going to take the dog out.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome. So, I'm excited for you guys. I'm hoping that this all happens because, I tell you what, I can understand putting a ton of effort and work into something that doesn't actually get to happen yet. Like, it's sad because you guys basically sit there and do all this work for not really at this point. Like it's like, and then you have to reach out. It's reaching out and rescheduling a date with someone that you really, 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 really wanted to go on a date with when you were younger. And you're like, hey, so my grandmother's visiting on a Friday night. So we have to reschedule. I can understand contacting these people and being like, they know what the world's like right now, but still it's like, hey, by the way, you were expecting to get paid on this weekend in October. Guess what? Yeah. It's going to be April.
Dude, so listen to this, though. So when I messaged Juliet and I was like, so here's the deal. I'm trying to explain to her, trying to basically let her down. Like, I know I'm just another event that's about to cancel on you. And she was like, our event, and there was one other event in the friggin' USA that was booked that her clients were booked for, and it was in Georgia. It was the Bangor Comic Joy-Con and an event in Georgia. And we were the last two, and I had to be like, so we have to postpone just like everybody else. And she was like, it sucks, but the guys, and she's talking about the Clerks guys, she's like, they're probably not even going to bat an eye at it. Like, it blows, but they're probably just going to be like, all right, just one less thing I got to worry about during all this stuff.
And it's true, because, it's like at this point, it's not like you're this obscure place just doing something weird. It's like, at this point, they've heard it all. Like, if they don't, if they're not reading the news, and plus the fact is, I'm not going to shame anybody or say it's not the right thing, but if you're in this world and your job is going to Comic-Cons, you're expecting someone to say, hey, we have to postpone our Comic-Cons. And let's be honest, Jay and Will can attest to this. They're not millionaires based off of Comic-Cons. So it's not like it's a money-making thing for them.
Yeah.
They're not like, they're doing this for you guys, the fans, really, and obviously themselves too, because you guys are fans as well. But the truth of the matter is, they don't want to postpone this event. It's just it is what it is. But
yeah,
it's just a crazy world we live in. So I can understand being like, oh God, I don't want to send this text message. Okay, we're postponing, and then I'm sure it took you guys a week to actually say we're going to do this, right? I mean, you guys took some time. Excuse me.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was the hard truth that Will and I one day were just like both together. Like you could feel it. It was in the air. I mean, it was a month and a half away, and I still could not get a definitive yes from the Cross Insurance Center that we were going to be able to hold our event at capacity that we're used to and the way that we were planning on doing it. And we're like, how? There's no way.
I think in the email, and I'll add another thing after this, because at the same time, like, I feel we're very lucky, but I'll tell you why after. But in the email, they were basically like, we'll try to have your event on those dates or as close to as possible. And Justin, as you know, we've already discussed this piece where it's not one of those where we can just say, oh, hey, yeah, guess what? We can do it, we can do it November 5th and through the 7th. Okay, well, now let's let all these, guests know that we're going to do it this day, or, not even a month prior. Let's try to get all these vendors here, get these people to be able to take that time now off from work to be here. It's like, it's not just this little simple pop-up event. There's so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
But the reason why I say we're also lucky is I got to give the Cross credit. They've been so good with us with everything going on. I saw it's one of the groups that I'm on for either like Rate This Comic-Con or something like that. And somebody was like, oh yeah, so I saw like GalaxyCon is still happening in Minneapolis or something like that. Like, does anyone know what's going on with that, or like how they're able to make this happen? And people were like, making all these comments on it. And then our mentor Mike, who runs it, like put out this long paragraph long comment, and he's like, hey guys, trust me, like I don't want this event to happen. Like I want my convention to be pushed until next year. He goes, he's like, we're not in a good place right now. And if it was my say, I would have announced weeks ago, a month ago, that this convention is not happening. But he goes, on the flip side for me, he goes, I'm stuck in this contract with this venue. I'm stuck in a contract, I've got all these things with this, with the city of Minneapolis, with the venue, where, kind of like the whole thing with WrestleMania, where it was the opposite. The city wanted, WrestleMania to move, and WrestleMania was like, no, we're going to go until, we can't. It was that opposite. Mike is like, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel safe. Like, I bring hundreds of thousands of people to my convention. This is not the time to be doing that. But I'm also stuck in this contract, and until the city say, hey, you're okay to move it, I have to sit here and say, okay, I'm having a convention. I'm going against all safety, that needs to be put in place, because if I don't, there's lawyers, there's this and that, all these things I have to go through.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think that, there's that side of things where, somebody is stuck in that, and we're just like, okay, hey, we really want this to happen, but it can't, so let's push it back and be able to, make it happen. So I won't say effortlessly, but yeah, it's been an experience. Like, I mean, again, Justin, you've kind of seen, it's basically we get done in April, and we're like, okay, we'll take the rest of April off. We'll take May off to kind of just like recharge. maybe even not all of May, but either by the end of May, beginning of June, we're like,
not for you. I took it till about July, and Will's like, we gotta get back into this, man.
Yeah, I was just
like, oh shit, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, now we've got obviously less than a year till the next one. We've got to like get these guests locked in. We've got to work, find, get dates set with the cross and everything. And it's basically, you end one, you take a month to relax, and then we're right back in it. And then the crazy thing that me and Jay were talking about was, okay, if we do this in October, normally the con happens in April. So what do we do? Do we do everything to still make this happen in October as long as we're allowed to? But while we're doing that, we're planning 2021 and basically going to drop like all these guest announcements and all of this during that weekend. Yeah. And say, hey, vendors, while you're already here and you've made your money, let's get that money right back in place for, for spring, because we'll see you guys again in 6 months to do it all over again.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it's a weight off our shoulders. But, I mean, when it's all said and done, I'm excited that we're doing this weekend with Jason. We get to at least have a little bit of normalcy with all that. And I'm excited to help Paul because Galactic Comics is doing great. And I'm so happy for him. And I'm so proud of him and all that. And, get to go check these other places. Like, we went down to 3D Games the other day. And apparently that comic – or I keep calling it a comic book shop. It's not a comic shop. There's no comics in there. They've been around for like 11 years, and apparently they're doing the best they've ever done. It's an interesting time where people are like broke, but we're all spending more money than we've ever spent in our lives.
How are you broke? I mean, didn't the government give you $1,200?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, we were just talking like, like Jason's big thing is he wants to be able to try to help some of these local businesses, and he's like, yeah, we're all for it. He's like, I got to say that we've been very lucky. Like when COVID first happened, we were in the middle of moving from our old shop to our new one, which is a much better location. It's right down the street from UMF. So great foot traffic. And he's like, so it was a little dicey at first. He goes, but these last 2 months have been the busiest we've ever had since we've opened.
That's awesome. So that's cool to hear. So the guy I spoke at the beginning, at the top of the episode, about leaving Owner Brewing Company on Friday, and he is moving to Farmington. So and he's moving this weekend. So I was like, hey, by the way, you want to meet a Power Ranger on the weekend of the 2nd and 4th? Yeah, you can meet him at 3D Games in Farmington. Also, I ate at Gifford's Ice Cream in Farmington on my honeymoon. Nice. Great ice cream. So, nice. And there's a McDonald's right next door. I know somewhat if we're in that area. Like it's like
it's right.
I feel like you're telling us your pitch for your honeymoon to your wife.
Yeah.
Plus,
hey, by the way, there's a McDonald's there. I won't lie. I'll tell you the truth. We ate at the McDonald's on our honeymoon. It was like the second or third meal we ate as a married couple out. We were just got done from going somewhere, and it was just like we're hungry. And we're like, let's just go to McDonald's. We'll do we did the phone. You order on your phone. You just drive up to the spot. It was perfect. And then we ate Gifford's ice cream afterwards. So it was excellent. Yep. Thank you, Farmington.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice. We were there long before. It was a cool little
It's a cool little town. I mean, the whole area, the whole Western Maine is just beautiful. If anybody gets a chance, we spent the week at a Sugarloaf. It was stunning out there. The whole area is great. Asa, our head brewer, went to school at UMF. He loves it out there. So it's a really good, cool place out there. And it's pretty cool that you guys get to bring someone like Jason out to a place like that and experience the mountains of Maine in a sense out there. And then get to come to our little city of Bangor and Paul, who's, again, I call him my comic book dealer because it's a drug, which is funny because there's a little snippet. I don't think Jeff from Top Shelf Comics is going to listen to this podcast, so I'm not worried. But I started buying. So from when Paul opened and after COVID, I was like, okay, I want to support Paul. So I decided to split my comic books. If I buy 6 a week, 8 a week, I'd split them down the middle. I'd buy half at Top Shelf in downtown Bangor and half with Paul. And I was like late for work or whatever. I'd swing in, grab my comic books, go home, go to work, swing by at the end of the night, pick up Paul's comic books or send Taylor. But last week was the first week I bought my entire comic books pull list from Paul. And This week, I didn't send my Paul list email to Jeff again because, again, I'm buying them all from Paul because I like to support Paul. He's a good dude, and he likes to talk comic books and knows a lot about it. And so I get an email from Jeff this morning saying, "Did you want any comic books this week?" And I'm like, "Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, no."
He's like, "Well, I'm broke."
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that now, but it's pretty cool.
It's just a different vibe, I'm not going to talk crap or anything like that, but it's just a different vibe, And I think the difference is the fact that Paul is still new at his shop, and we're all encouraging and trying to help him stay alive, and he seems to be doing a very good job with it. I don't even know if he needs us at this point.
Well, yeah, and the truth of the matter is, though, I want to go into a place. When you go into a burrito shop, you want someone to be like, "These burritos are amazing," and that's something that Jeff brings to the, or not Jeff, Paul brings to the table. Is I walk in there and he's like, "Look at this cover," and and he's like, "Let me special order this for you," and honestly, he brings the experience that gets someone at Bull Moose Music. When I go to Bull Moose in Bangor, they're like, "Oh, we don't have that record, but let me order it for you." It's like, 90% of the time I've walked in and someone who works at Top Shelf will just go, "Hey, here's the comic book. Oh, we don't have that one." And there's no like, "Can we get it for you? What can I do for you?" So on and so forth. And again, Jeff's been serving the Bangor community for a long time now. He's doing a great job. Yes. But I before Paul opened, there was where else to buy comic books. It was his. And so I'll still continue to go back. He has a huge back catalog of past issues and so on. But I don't know. I just connected with Paul. Paul's going to be a regular on the podcast. We're going to do a podcast called The Pull List. And it's just basically an episode talking. We're going to do I haven't told him this yet, but I think the first episode is going to be the top 10 female superhero characters. And we'll do our top 10. I'll do mine. He'll do his. We'll share them on the podcast together. And so every 5 weeks or so.
Categories. Yeah.
And Josh from Queen City Cinema Club, we're going to do movies every once in a while, which is basically our top 10 horror movies coming up in October. So it's really kind of cool just to have these local shops to do that. And I don't know, I would consider Paul a friend, whereas I consider Jeff a place where I went and bought comic books. So that's pretty cool that I can support a friend in his venture and him doing something and stepping out into a world that's not a money-making world. I guarantee you people told him he was crazy opening a comic book shop.
Yeah, right. And now he's doing great. You want to hear a crazy thing about worlds colliding with Paul? I don't think I told you this. I may have told Will this, but Paul randomly is like, "Hey, I'm pretty sure I dated your older sister when you were a little kid." He's like, "Mikkel, right?" I was like, "Yeah, it's my older sister." He's like, she was my girlfriend, and we brought you over to the Broadway Park when you were just a little kid." And I was so random, but he's like, "Yeah, I was hanging out with your sister."
And now he's married with a few kids and owns an old comic book shop. It's a weird, crazy world we live in. But
now I go there and I buy toys from him for my son. It's crazy.
Exactly. And that's the thing is he also sells pop vinyls and action figures and other crap that are in our nerd world that we like.
My favorite things about Paul's shop that I am sucked right into, and Will's witnessed it. I can't. It's like a trance. But what he does is he gets old toys that people sell him, like a box of random figures, and he puts them in a sleeve and he sells it for $2, $3, $4. So my son's into Star Wars, and what? You have original Star Wars toys randomly in these packages for $3, $4? Yeah, I'm gonna buy all those and give them to my kid.
And on a cardboard sleeve and in a box, you'd be like, I don't want to give that to my kid. But this is like, whatever. It's a loose figure. You don't really care. It's
exactly.
That's what's cool about it. That's.
I was that guy. I was there last week, and he had in the box 1997 Aronto with Jawa. It was like a reissue of the toys in the box, unopened. 23 years old, and I said to Paul, I was like, "I'm gonna buy that, and I'm gonna be that guy that I'm opening it and I'm giving it to my 3-year-old, my 2-year-old, whatever."
We talked about that
3 in like a month. But
when Paul was on my podcast, he talked about that.
What there for?
But yes, we talked about that when he was on my podcast a couple weeks ago, talking about Galactic. It was like, let's open shit, open it. Will, respect. You have all those behind you in boxes.
Everything.
I think I've only got one I've got one that's not.
Will, does this stress you out at all?
No.
Does it stress you out at all?
No, see, the thing that gets me with that is, there's people that love to display their pops out like that, and I've got Mike from Northeast Collectibles. opens all of his and he just folds the boxes up and he puts them in a tote?
I have some boxes for ones that I think that continuously will need the box, so I could at least go, hey, I had this loose figure, but I do have the box. If I ever wanted to pass it on to someone, I do have that. There is definitely some that, see?
Some that I cannot open.
Yeah, so like I think with mine it's like and I've like ran into like Bobby and Mike and them, and I'm like, oh, I really want that pop, but it's loose, so I'm not gonna get it. Or like I'm waiting like so. I don't know how well you can see that, but that's Rico Browning. He was the creature from the Black Lagoon. I got that autographed back a year ago, July last year.
Over a year, yeah.
And it's been sitting there like that because I could buy a loose one for like $30, but if I still want the one in a case because it's vaulted and gone, I'm gonna pay $150. And I'm like, I just can't. It's nice. It'll sit there, and eventually I'll get it. But for $150, I'm gonna hold on.
And I definitely think so. What I thought about was I want to talk about Comic-Con on this podcast, obviously, because that's where you guys are from. But in the future, I want Will to just jump on and just nerd out about freaking pop vinyls. You talk your ass off about pop vinyls because there is a thing. It's crazy because I don't know if people have probably watched the Netflix episode that has the whole history of pop vinyls and all that stuff and the craziness about the company. But like, it's crazy. I love them. I think they're cool because it's also affordable for most people to buy for their kids or display. Like most of these ones I have behind me were $8-9. I mean, I have some things. I don't know if you can see a Black Panther one behind me. That thing's like a $30 action or a statue. I don't have to pay $30 every time I buy an action figure or some sort of statue for my room. I can buy these $10. I mean, sometimes they're $4, depending on where you buy them, when you get them. So I understand that. And I'm also a Marvel Collector Core subscription member. So every 2 months, I get a box that has 2 pop vinyls in it. Usually some other memorabilia and stuff like that in a T-shirt or whatever. But they're cool. And I think it'd be really cool to talk about the pop vinyls and talk about some like cool collectible ones and things like that. But I open 99.9% of them. I think the only one I haven't opened right now is the Child Star Wars one.
Yes,
So that's one that I have still in the box, but I have like some of my Stanley ones. Like I have a Stanley, the one from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians there.
I have the box for that one still. So there is some ones that I have the box for. I own one counterfeit one. That's one. There were just 2 up high. Oh, it's this one. The Stanley Patina. That's the only counterfeit one that I have.
That was the Patina one there.
Yeah. What's that one?
Oh, hey, yeah, check that out.
The misprint.
Where'd you get that one? Where'd you get that one?
Will gave it to me.
Oh, what a nice guy he is.
So check this out. I didn't even know, and I don't even know what they're worth at this point. But when that pop first came out, I was like, I have to have that. And Target allowed you like online, because it was like online only. I don't even think Bangor got any in. There was like 2 per customer, and I was like, all right, well, this is at the time where I was like, to help make some extra, like not working that many hours. I was like, hey, I'll grab some of these pops, and I'm not going to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to charge $50 or $60. But if I paid like for one of like those exclusives, they're like $14.99. So I'll do it for like $25, or make sure one of my friends gets one. I think the most I've made off of one, I bought like when the Pikachu pop first came out through Target, I bought it for $14.99, and my friend's like, "You got one of those? Like they're selling on eBay for like $150 right now." I was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not attached to it. Like it's not one of those like I absolutely need to have this in my collection." So I put mine up for like $49.99 or best offer, and 10 minutes later, somebody was like $100, and I was like, "Okay, you're gonna offer me double what I put for the price? Sure, get it out of here." I ordered the 2 Jeff ones, and then either Target messed up and they sent me 4, and so I called them and I was like, "Hey, like I don't know if I got somebody else's order or whatnot," And they're like, oh, well, no, that happened with a few of them. Do you want them? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll take them. I'm like, all right, so we'll just charge your card on file for 2 more. Yeah, sure, why not? And then I saw how well those were doing, so I'm like, oh, I'll sell a couple of them. And I didn't notice until like a few months later, and I only had mine. I had mine that Jay now has, and somebody was like, yeah, isn't it crazy? Like those were misprinted. Like they forgot one of the L's in Malcolm. So like that whole first run is all misprints. So I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And I was like, so I went home and like, yeah, if you look at it, like the old ones, like Jay just had, the Dr. Ann Malcolm is written in white, and when they did the new print and realized it, the Dr. Ann Malcolm is fixed and it's written in red.
Well, and it's spelled, there's no L.
Yeah, so that one's missing the L.
Like missing the L, Malcolm.
And
That's
then
crazy.
So Jeff was at Fan Expo 2 years ago, and Jay
it's been 2 years, yeah.
Yeah.
And Jay went down, and I sent him with my pop, and I was like, yeah, get it signed for me. And he's like, so this is how much he's asking for autographs. I was like, yeah, kind of tight on money. Let's hold off.
Wish I would have just done it.
And I regretted it forever. And
but you guys are going to get him to Bangor Comic Con, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Because you can get anybody. You just wish it. You wish it. You will it. It will come.
You wish it. If you build it, they will come.
With how crazy this year's been, there's been all these different signing events and whatnot. So they had one that Jeff was doing. Where is it? And I randomly I'm like, yeah, I guess I've got some extra cash right now. I'm gonna do it. And somehow I got lucky enough to get I got it signed, and it's, you got to see it with my lights, but the misprinted.
That's awesome.
You have the trifecta.
That's what I was saying. Like, there's like so much more that you know about these things too. And I have a buddy of mine. I could probably get him on. He works in the kitchen or in a brewing company. He's our kitchen manager to talk. He does the same thing. He has a Funko app, and he's like, "Look at this one. It's worth this much money and all that stuff." And I'm like, "That's really cool." And I'd be happy that things are worth money. I mean, I collect comic books, so if I get a good comic book that's worth money, then obviously I give a shit. But it's like, for me, it was just like, how do I take this room that I want to turn into Marvel crap and do it on a budget? And do it on a budget, you buy a bunch of Funko shit because they're not super expensive. Yeah. And so like, I have a whole display of like Funko Thanos stuff, because Thanos is my favorite villain and all that stuff. So whenever I see one here and there, and I have a list of things I want to get, but I buy them here and there. If I'm buying something on Amazon, it's like, oh, it's only $4. I'll buy that, or $5 on Amazon because it comes in or whatever. Or, the pop vinyl that you got, or the protector we got signed by Rabbit from Super Troopers. I'm gonna get get a pop vinyl thing for that, and we're gonna put that in the box to display it at Orna Brewing Company, which is pretty cool. So we have like our 1 millionth can that we canned, and I'll put that Rabbit one that says Orna Brewing Company.
1 million, really? Wow.
Yeah, we did 1 million. Gratitude, Pale Ale was 1 million cans.
That's awesome.
This past batch of Tubular was 1,000th batch of Tubular, which is pretty cool. So
I brought my Rabbit thing thinking I was going to get my case from Paul, but he's not open tonight, so I didn't get it.
He's like, I'm going to stop at Paul's on my way. I was like, good luck with that. I'm like, he's closed on Tuesdays.
He lives down the street. Get him to come in. No, just kidding.
Right? Jay hasn't got it again. You're not going to be able to, let me see if I can kill the lights on this for a second. Like, Justin, yours came out amazing, and you're not going to be able to see it because of how dark it is.
I can see it.
But like whatever pen that he used to sign these is amazing, and probably we got a few of them, like the one Jason has, Joey's, Kim Jong. But it's one of those with Funko Pop.
I could have sworn you just said Kim Jong. Did Kim Jong have a Funko Pop?
Probably somewhere.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there he is.
Kim Jong.
Kim Jong Il. Like, well, yeah. Wait, is that the what's it called? What's that movie called with Seth Rogen?
The Interview.
The Interview. Is that from that movie? But
good movie.
So you guys got I want to close it up here. We've been on for a little while. I mean, I know you guys talked on your live stream for 4.5 freaking hours, but I will tell you right now, you have the Jason Font events coming up 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in Maine, which is super exciting. Yes, you're hoping for the end of April to do the Comic-Con in Bangor. You can buy tickets right now, right? Still, I mean, technically.
Yep.
Yeah. So buy tickets to that.
I know.
And then 2021 Comic-Con, you guys are gonna get Scotty Young, right? Is that what I've heard? And then.
Oh, dude, I've been trying,
Jay.
man. I've been trying. I think they just stopped responding to me at this point.
And then the other one I want is Charles Soule, who's writing the Star Wars comic books right now and does Undiscovered Country. That's the other guy that I would love to see. So, again, I'm going to be that fanboy who's going to be like, you should get this person. But, I mean, Jay did this Run the Jewels Scotty Young tattoo on my arm, which I still love to death and I get comments about all the time. And the post I posted with the Jewel Runner bottle and the Run the Jewels pistol in a fist thing, Killer Mike liked that photo on Instagram. So just saying, one of these days I'm going to be able to meet those guys. Chris Rudolph from Waterfront Concerts said he's going to hopefully try to send him some bottles of Jewel Runner to have him send back and have them both autograph the bottles.
Dude, that's
pretty badass.
so awesome. That would be awesome.
But I'm super excited that you guys came on. I'm hoping and doing everything I can for the willing of you guys having this Comic-Con in April because I love it. It's one of the few weekends that I just say to work, I'm not working, I'm going there to do this. I'm excited for it to happen because it's definitely needed in Bangor. I think pop culture is a huge thing right now, and I think that you guys do a good job bringing a various amount of people in. You've had a various amount of guests. And I'm super excited for this to happen in April. So I really appreciate you guys coming on. Bangor Comic and ToyCon.com. Is that right, Will? I want to make sure I give you the right one. There is a bogus website out there. Don't go to that one.
You're good.
Bangor Comic and ToyCon.com. You can also follow them on Instagram, Twitter. Not Twitter, sorry. Well, probably on Twitter, but like Instagram and Facebook.
What is Twitter?
I don't But thank you, Will. Thank you, Jay. I really appreciate you guys coming on and talking some nerd culture and some pop culture with me. I hope to have you guys on again. And you guys are going to have me on your Don't Cross the Streams and you guys come back for that, the little hiatus you guys are on now. So.
Oh, yeah. You're an honorary member.
Third member, yeah.
I'll come on as the guy in the corner. I'm the guy in the chair. That's what I am. I'm the guy in the chair.
Hey, real quick on the Scotty Young thing, just to rub this in Jay's face, because I mean, I just got lucky and happened to be at Paul's shop and saw it out. But
oh yeah, you suck. See, he posted something about another Scotty Young. I have like 15 of them. He's like, it's $75. I'm like, God damn it.
Scotty Young and Peter Mayhew signed that.
Oh,
Mayhew,
God damn you.
Yeah, so Peter Mayhew. So it's Scotty Young and then Peter Mayhew, Phil Noto, and Gary Duggan.
Got everybody.
And then being Paul being Paul, it was like, I was like, oh man, that's super cool. I didn't even realize it was signed by Chewbacca at first. I just liked it. And he's like, oh yeah, that's signed by Peter Mayhew. And I was like, all right, how much? And he's like, $100. And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I'd let it go for $100. I was like, let me think on that one. And I was like, I went home and I was telling Chelsea about it. And she's like, well, get it. And I'm looking it up and I'm like,
treat yourself.
I'm like, Peter Mayhew's autograph alone, especially now, is like easily double that. Not to mention the graded book signed by everybody else. I was like, Paul, do you realize what that's going for? He's like, yeah, but this is what I paid for it. So as long as I'm getting my money and I'm making somebody happy.
But that's Paul for you. It is. You're right. That's a great Paul story because, like, I texted him about the Jack Kirby book, the one that's like the Life of Jack Kirby or whatever. I'm like, hey, do you have that? He's like, I can order it for you. I'm like, well, Amazon has it right now for $21. He's like, well, I can match that, but I won't make much money. I'm like, no, Paul, how much would you sell it for? He goes, usually $25.99. And he goes, how about $23? I'm like, sold. I'm like, I could buy it from Amazon, a big corporation or whatever, save $2, or I can put the $2 in Paul's pocket. And I was like, do that. But he was willing to be like, I won't make much, but for you, yeah, sure. I'm like, no. Yeah. Be honest with me, man. Just tell me what you want for this book. I'm going to buy it from you. It's fine.
Sure.
But absolutely great time talking to you.
Yes.
Give all your family and everybody best for me. We'll be on. We'll talk again soon. We'll schedule another update. I want to do one as we get closer to the actual con, too, to talk what's going on, actual details about the actual event and stuff like that. So much love to both you guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Have a good night.
For having us.
Yes, you as well. Take care.